This Partner in Action podcast series is a collection of interviews and real-life stories from people who apply the partner mindset and behaviors. The result, they get more of what they want, more often, with less difficulty. Amy Carroll is a communication coach, trainer, author, and professional speaker. She travels the globe using her secret superhero powers to liberate people from communication disasters. The communication model, Predator, Prey, Partner, was developed by Pat Kirkland, a superhero in her own right, and who happens to be Amy's sister. You can find out more at Amy's website, carolcoaching.com, and patkirklandleadership.com. So listen, laugh, and learn how you can overcome the communication disasters in your life and get more of what you want.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the 11th Partner in Action webinar. The foundation of the Partner in Action webinar comes from the communication model Predator, Prey, Partner, which is a body of work developed by my sister, Pat Kirkland. If you ever want to know more information about Pat or her work, feel free to visit her website, patkirklandleadership.com. It looks like we have people joining in from a couple of folks are already in Europe. We're going to have a couple of people calling in from Central America, US, and Asia. So welcome, everyone. Nicola, I'd like to pass it over to you to review some technical points.
Thanks, Amy. Good evening, everyone. So as Amy mentioned, there are a few technical things for you to note. This call is an audio only, and it will be recorded. So if possible, please find a quiet spot. In order to keep the quality of the line high, please use a headset and mute your microphone when not speaking. I will also be in the background muting you automatically, so don't worry if you forget. If you're calling in on a landline handset, press *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to raise your hand. If you're calling in via your computer or iPad directly through the Zoom app, click on the microphone symbol in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen to mute and unmute. To raise your hand, click on Participants, then Raise Hand. I'm going to put all of this information into the general chat box for those of you who are online. You can ask a question or make a comment by raising your hand or by using the chat box at any point. And finally, if you're having trouble with any of these options, unmute yourself and practice your partner interrupting. That's it for now. Back to you, Amy.
Thanks, Nicola. Today's call is going to be semi-interactive. It's going to be a discussion and coaching. We'll be looking at the communication challenges some of you submitted prior to the call. And it'll be a combination of laser discussion and spot coaching on the behaviors and the mindset that we discussed in the Predator Prey Partner program. So whether it's a challenge you submitted or someone else submitted, you're welcome to participate in the discussion and feel free to volunteer to be coached. You may be doing some writing during the call, so grab a piece of paper, pen, and make sure you're not driving a vehicle. So the call will be focusing on success stories, challenges, questions, comments. And you can ask a question or you can make a comment by raising your hand, as Nicola mentioned earlier, via the participant icon or using the chat box. Both are located in the bottom toolbar. And Nicola, before we move on, I know there's a couple of people, as they come on, if they have their video on, feel free. I know, Ivana, you had your video on. If you haven't turned that off, you can. And I think it might have been Lenka I saw who had your video on. She maybe stepped away, so we can maybe send them a chat if the video is still on. If you're someone who got this webinar invitation forwarded to you, which happens from time to time, and you've never attended one of my workshops, I'm delighted you're joining us. Most people on the call have already attended a workshop or an intensive training with me. So it's possible that not everything I'm going to be saying will make perfect sense to you. Therefore, here's my request. As I've said in my trainings, you don't have to like what I say. You don't have to agree with it. Just stay open to it. And over the coming weeks, practice the behaviors that we'll be talking about and see what starts to change as you get better and better at the behaviors. Now, what I'd like to do for a moment is to give a short review for some of you of the main concepts we talk about when I'm referring to the Predator-Prey Partner. Most of the time, most of us are behaving as partners. Which I mean by is I'm holding high respect for myself and the other is holding high respect for themselves. All is well. The problem is under pressure, stress, perceived threat, crisis, or just if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you could flip either into a predator mode or prey mode. And certainly this, as you can see with the 8 different categories of things that could trigger one of these reactions, it can happen pretty frequently to us. So with the predator, we're holding too much respect for ourselves, not enough for others. Sometimes people, if we're being predator, people may think we're appearing aggressive or rude or disrespectful or intimidating. Whereas the prey, and that's spelled P-R-E-Y, the prey is usually overcompensating by being too respectful towards the other person, too polite, too nice, too submissive. And the danger of that is that it can trigger even a nice person to become a predator towards us when we're being too prey. So those are the description of the archetypes. Now, before we jump into the communication challenges, I'd like to share with you a partner success story that I had a few years ago. Now, Nicola, you may remember this because it happened when we were in France together driving to the client site. And I'll paint the picture for you. We were doing a large group event. There were 2 other coaches with me, and then also my business manager, Nicola, was in my car. And the morning we were leaving from the hotel to go to the client site, and we'd already been there twice before, the client said, Amy, would you like me to come to the hotel and guide you by car to the office? And I thought, oh gosh, it's only 5 minutes away. That's silly. I said, oh, no, thank you. So I turned down that offer. And then my colleague, Gabriella, says, Amy, would you like me to turn on my GPS so that we know how to get there? I said, no. And I'm convinced I know exactly how to get there. Plus, I had Nicola in the car with me, and I had my GPS on. The moment we drive off the hotel grounds, my GPS stops working. And I managed to take a wrong turn, like literally driving out of the hotel. So this now means that I've got to have a convoy of 2 other cars behind me where we do this U-turn in this little itty-bitty driveway. So when we finally get to the client, which should have only been 5 minutes away, and it's more like 10 minutes at this point, I'm feeling really, really stressed. And it's one of those companies that has a security gate and a security guard in front of the gate. And he was off to the side, so when I was driving through, I noticed the gate was up. I said, oh, okay, well, I guess, they're not going to stop us. So as I drove through the gate, he drops the barrier onto the hood of my car. Thump. And you can only imagine that, it's just getting worse. And Nicola just takes a deep breath. And I don't remember, Nicola, if I said it out loud or not. And I said something like, okay, get ready for predator. Because if
you said, watch this. Watch this.
Right, because I was convinced that security guard was going to go predator on me and I could have been wrong, though, unfortunately, I wasn't wrong. So I slowly reverse the car back, lower my window, and he starts to yell at me. And this is all happening in French. And I say to him, oh, sir, excuse me, my apologies. So what I did was I immediately took responsibility, assuming I did something wrong, even though he dropped the barrier on my car. And I didn't even address that part at all. I didn't point a finger at him because, frankly, he was doing his job. And I don't know, the guy barely had 5 seconds of anger in him when he just suddenly deflated like a balloon instantly. And he said, oh, no, it's no problem at all. And I said, oh, thank you so much. And I just thanked him. And I'm like, okay, I apologize. Now he's going to lift the gate. No, he now goes into a detailed explanation of how I'm going to be able to find the exact building I need to go to. Now, the guy didn't realize I had been there the day before, so I was just going to let this ride, and I just said, oh, thank you so much. And then I think he offered one more thing, when you go into security, make sure, to have them ask for a parking permit or something like that. And Nicola, I don't know if you remember, what was your reaction to that afterwards? Do you remember?
I was shocked. I was shocked at how quickly the guard changed his behaviour. I mean, I could not believe the shift in front of my eyes within 5 seconds of you speaking. It was incredible. And what he actually offered you is he told you where to park so that it was the easiest and closest access to the building. It was so funny.
Yeah,
and he called you Madame.
So, okay, good catch. So very respectful, yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you have a good memory for that. I just thought that would be inspiration for everyone, that no matter who it is, expect magic to happen when you use these skills. So now, these are the 3 skills that were voted on today. We had or rather the communication challenges. First communication challenge with the most number of votes was mastering active listening, active interruption in order to effectively manage someone who's upset or derailing or overwhelming a conversation. The second one was to recover from getting yelled at, screamed at, either virtually or face-to-face. And then the third one was proactively intervene when you hear or witness unacceptable behavior. So that got the second highest number of votes. So depending on who volunteers and steps up to be coached tonight, we may see if there's a possibility of combining both the top two with active listening as well as when you hear or witness someone doing something that's inappropriate or unacceptable, because that can be quite tricky. So let's see, Nicola, do you know if we have any folks? I know Betty sent a description of a challenge, and Lenka, and I think I saw Lenka. Do you know if Betty's on the call?
I'm just checking. I'm not sure actually whether Betty's managed to log in. I can't see her as a participant, although I believe Lenka is with us.
I am here because I am using the abbreviation LMR.
And I recognized your face, Lenka, when I got to see the video on. So
Thank you.
Okay, so Lenka, I'm going to review what you sent.
Yes.
Submitted as your challenges. You actually gave me 3 of them. And that was brilliant. And so then I may ask for some clarification. So the first one I understood. How to handle the tone or the voice that sounds unpleasant. So I'm imagining you're interacting with someone and they're yelling or they're sounding very sharp, harsh, right? Okay.
Yes.
The second one, and I'm going to read all 3 of them off because it may be that they're somehow related.
Yes.
The second one is you're in a seminar, you're at the coffee break, and there's somebody that comes up to you and they just won't stop talking to you. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you gracefully and graciously remove yourself in order to be able to have a little bit of downtime before the seminar starts again?
Yes.
Okay. And then the third one is how to teach people who are asking questions very mechanically. Because it sounds like they've been told, oh, you should participate. And then they're asking you these questions. They're sounding mechanical, and you would like them to ask it in a genuine or natural way.
Yes.
Okay, great. So here's what I'd like you to do. Give me, and I may be interrupting you to make sure I'm really understanding this clearly. Are these situations, all 3 examples, are these interrelated or are these separate?
Separate. All are different persons.
Which one would you like to start with first?
The second.
How to stop someone being intrusive when you're at a break during a seminar.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you a few questions, Lenka. Yes. Are you also a participant or are you running these seminars?
I was running it.
Okay. So you're the instructor and they want to talk to you.
Yes.
Okay. And is this something, I mean, because you put it down, I'm guessing this has happened to you more than once.
With the same person, it happened to me twice. I had her on a 6-day training during the half of the year, I would say. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that it happens to you a lot with many people. It's one person in particular that was a bit draining. It sounds like it was draining for you.
Yeah. Because I was not sure how to really properly react, that I am still polite and I will not offend her, but I want to have my space. And she was really like person that is almost not attacking you, but wants to take you forever and talk to you only.
Yeah, so my first question for you is, what is a positive story that you can make up about someone like that? Their reason for coming to talk to you constantly and a lot.
Well, what she told me, and not only me, to the others, no one listens to her at home. Her husband is always away from her. And suddenly my feeling, it was my feeling that she has suddenly a person that is listening to her. So she wants to occupy me and the other person as well.
Got it. Is that a story that helps you to have some empathy for her?
Can be the empathy, but to be honest, I was probably not empathetic enough because somehow she was the elder lady, like 60 plus, and not a type of the person I want to be in touch and I want to listen. So it was probably more about my feelings.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And, you said something that maybe it's a little bit of a bias. Sometimes when I see older people, I think, oh, they're going to be boring. And that's an ageist bias that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And as I get older, I'm paying more attention to it. So great. I love that you point that out about that it may be more about you. I want to point out something else. Lenka, you said, I didn't want to offend her.
Yeah, that's probably my bias. If I am a teacher there, I should behave very politely and not offend anyone.
Right. And here's the thing. This is what I actually wanted to say about that statement. I did not want to offend her.
Mm-hmm.
We, as human beings, technically, we can't make anyone else feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the opposite is that you might do everything to make her feel fabulous, and she may choose to feel offended.
Yes.
And that certainly wasn't your intention. So I want to encourage you to distance yourself from your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that we can have best intentions and it will work or it won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you see that inside there's a part of you that maybe has these kind of biases that you're assuming in advance, maybe, I'm not going to get anything from this. This won't be valuable. Plus I have I need to take, you need to take precious downtime when you're running a seminar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other part is, yes, there is an expectation and a protocol of being polite and being professional. And my sense is that if you were a participant in a workshop, you would absolutely feel that it was completely reasonable and legitimate for that seminar leader to take some time for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? So that also means that's true for you, yes?
Yes.
Right. And so really what I'm hearing is, how can you set a limit with that person in a way that is going to reduce the likelihood of damaging the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
And just because you have empathy for her, oh, she's at home alone, people, her husband doesn't listen to her, people don't want to talk to her, that doesn't mean you have to be the martyr and you're responsible for her either.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, right? So, and what's interesting is you can still hold that space where you have empathy for the person and you're still going to set limits to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Great. So during the 6 days, I'm guessing it started immediately on day one. Is that true?
I would say in the afternoon, not during the break, but she was the longest in a discussion and probably the longest she wants to be listened.
And at what point did you start to realize it? Was it already on day 2? Would you start to realize, oh, this is becoming a problem, or this is stressful or overwhelming for me?
During the lunch break, when she was the single person in the room, that was not for her not possible to find a restaurant around it. She was attracting more of my attention than all the other people.
So Lenka?
Yeah?
I'm going to coach you on a side piece.
Yes.
You have a very strong, powerful voice. I want you to keep that strong voice. I want you to add a few more pauses. To help slow yourself down. And I want you to give me that answer again, and I want you to give it to me in 5 to 7 words.
Okay.
Lenka, at what point did you realize it was becoming a concern or problematic?
For me, personally, during the lunch break.
Beautiful. Brilliant. Well done. So you slowed yourself down a bit and you kept it very short and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So as a side note, I think those are 2 skills that I'd encourage you to move to mastery so that this powerful energy you have, you can keep it and it won't overwhelm people.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now, did you ever say anything to her during these 6 days?
Not in this respect.
Okay. So sometimes what happens is when we wait and we wait and we wait, then we explode. And when it's a professional situation, sometimes we never say anything. Let's imagine you are that woman.
Yes.
And we'll call you by your name. So we'll say her name is Lenka for this demo.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this was a face-to-face seminar, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
Right. So let's imagine it's now day 2 in the afternoon. I'm pretty clear after the lunch, this is getting to be too much. So here, my point is that I really encourage people to speak up as soon as they're able to. And able doesn't mean you just say something in a minute. It means you stop, you reflect, you think about what you want to say, you make sure you've been fed and watered, and then you say it as respectfully as possible. So if you're her and I'm going to play you.
Okay.
So let's imagine, so why don't you, whatever she says to you and whatever energy she says it, let's have you, you're going to come up to me. Obviously, we're just doing this with voices, and then I'm going to see how I handle it. And then I'll find out from you if it was effective or not. Maybe it wasn't, okay? Okay, so when I say action, it means you, as this woman, you're walking up to me. Action.
Yeah.
So yeah, good. You come up to me as that woman.
Oh, hi, Lenka. Where I should be going to that restaurant? You know, you know the hotel.
Okay.
I am staying in, and
yeah.
Okay,
so did you see how you sort of fade out? I want you to stay in the role of this woman. And you're going to call me Amy, and I'm going to call you Lenka, even though you're going to play her and I'm going to play you.
Okay.
All right, so let's start it again. And just, I don't think she would give up so quickly, do you?
No, she will not be.
Don't stop. Stay in the role play and just stay with me the whole time. And then I'll call time.
Yeah. Amy.
Yes,
I need to go somewhere. I want to go somewhere to the vegetarian restaurant. You know, I asked in the hotel for the breakfast. They recommend one, but I
Lenka.
No. I am asking you for the advice because you told in the morning that you know plenty of restaurants here.
Lenka.
But I want to you recommend me the great restaurant. And it should be really the vegetarian, not the vegan only.
Lenka, if I understand correctly, you're looking for a restaurant that's vegetarian for lunch. Is that right?
Yes. I am looking for the vegetarian restaurant. It's a very cozy place. And I want to be there. And where are you going? Can I accompany you?
So Lenka, if I understand correctly, you'd like a recommendation and you'd like to know if I'm going to go. Is that right?
Yes, I am looking. If I can accompany you, it will be my pleasure.
Lenka, thank you for inviting me for lunch. And because I'm putting so much energy into the seminar, I want to take some time during the lunch break to be quiet and reflective. So I won't be joining you for lunch. And unfortunately, I don't have the names of any vegetarian restaurants to offer you. Perhaps if you check at the reception, they have some suggestions. Would that work for you, Lenka?
Yes. Okay. I am check. I probably follow you, but I will leave you alone in the restaurant. I promise. Yes.
And actually, I'm gonna thank you, and I'm gonna walk on my own because I'm gonna already begin my break now. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Lenka. I'll see you at 2:00 when we start back in the afternoon.
Okay. Yes, I will be at right time here. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so now we pause. Holy smokes, she sounds really, really, really tough. I think everybody else on the call, your mouths are open, your eyes are wide, going, oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so now here's jaw on the floor, yes. So I want to hear from people listening. What did you notice that I did and I had to do multiple times? So Lenka, before you respond, let's have some people, you can take yourselves off mute, anyone, or you can type in your comments. So the question is, what did you notice I did in order to wrestle back the microphone from our friend? And then Lenka, while we're waiting for responses, you can be thinking about from your perspective what you noticed I did. Or what I didn't do that either was effective or ineffective. Okay, so I'm not seeing any notes from anyone. So Lenka, why don't you go ahead?
Well, you ask me the questions and you paraphrase in part of the questions the part of my sentences.
Yeah, so I asked questions, I paraphrased, and Suzanne said Good catch. I summarized the input and I clarified if she understood correctly. Oh, did I? Good. I'm glad I did that. Yeah. Thanks for listening so intently, Suzanne. And what did I do even before I summarized?
You call my name.
And even before that.
That probably I was not listening properly because I was concentrating on delivering the message.
Right. And it's true, people won't notice this when you do it effectively, though it still works. While you were speaking, Lenka, I was saying things like, yeah, right, I see.
Absolutely, I absolutely didn't hear it.
Okay. And then I said your name.
Mm-hmm. And yeah. It was when I started to pay attention.
Yes. And I loved how well you played her because you did not make it easy at all. And you did something that's very typical is that you'll pause for a second when I say your name, except that you take the microphone back immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so Nadia heard you. I acknowledged a lot, those short things. Yeah, I see, okay, right, got it. Notice I'm pretty sure I didn't say I understand. If we break that down, I understand, that's 4 syllables.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to say I understand while Lenka was speaking, she might feel like I was interrupting her and talking over her.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the short ones, yeah, I see, okay, these are these micro interruptions.
Mm-hmm.
So that prepares the person speaking. When I say their name, it's a little bit less of a shock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Next question for everyone on the call. What did I do? How did I say Lenka's name? What did you notice? Lenka, how about for you? Did you notice anything about the way I said it?
With the distinct or slowly?
Actually, what Nicola just wrote in the notes with the downward inflection. And what Ivana says, it was like an exclamation. It was a statement.
Mm-hmm.
So I could have, because what happens when most of us say another person's name, we say it with an upward inflection, and it would sound like this. Lenka?
Yeah, and it was not. It was with the going down.
Yeah, because what happens in your brain as the speaker, if I said Lenka with an upward inflection, you would have heard I'm asking permission to interrupt, and your desire to let me interrupt would have been less motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I said Lenka with a downward inflection, then you heard a very firm request.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then something very, very subtle I do right after I say the person's name is I pause for 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If they're going to give me that invisible microphone. So I say Lenka, and then I wait a second to see. Now, in your case, sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, which is a great example. When it works and you pause for that 1 extra second, then I know, grab the microphone, Amy, and run. And I get the microphone, and then that's the moment I summarize. So Lenka, if I understood correctly, blah, 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 blah. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, later on, what happened when I said Lenka, and then you took the microphone back or you just kept talking. So then I had to do the active listening again. And once I made the mistake where I said Lenka. So I said your name twice in a row, which I actually don't encourage people to do. But you could start to say Lenka, Lenka, and then your exasperation or frustration starts to show in your voice. So that's where you could damage the relationship. So in summary, and this was an unexpected lead into exactly what people were asking about. That was the main thing you all voted on, is active listening / active interruption. The active listening part, just like you're doing now, Lenka, as I'm speaking, you're saying, So short acknowledgments. And then as soon as you're ready to interrupt them, you say the person's name. And then as soon as you feel confident, okay, they're giving me that 1 or 2 seconds, I'm going to jump in, summarize. And here's the great news, everyone. You don't even have to get the summarizing correct. I could have said, Lenka, if I understood correctly, you're thinking about going on a vegetarian diet next year. Is that right? And I would have only gotten 1 fraction of it correct. And that's okay. You would have said, no, Amy, I'm looking for a restaurant. Oh, okay. So don't get too nervous about not having the summary correct, because you're not saying, oh, I understand, you're looking for a vegetarian holiday. If I say it as a statement and I got it wrong, then it would be more frustrating for the person. So I summarize. And then luckily I was able to redirect in that moment. thank you for inviting me to lunch. And during the seminars, I put in a lot of energy, so I'm going to have some downtime. So, Lenka, are you ready to practice being yourself now? And I'm going to be this woman who's very, very panicked and wants to get your attention.
Okay, yeah.
All right. And now what I'm going to do is, it's going to be a little bit tricky because I'm going to be playing this panicked, because the way she acted, it really almost sounded panicked. And that's why I'll play this woman in that way. And then I'm going to pause occasionally and step out and be Amy, and Amy the coach. So I'm going to be Amy the woman who's panicking about a vegetarian restaurant, and I'm going to be Amy the coach. So I'll flip back and forth. Is that okay for you?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Lenka, I need to talk to you. I have a question for you. Do you have a minute? I need to know, this morning when I was in the rest.
Emily.
Okay. So here's what's weird. Within 3 words out of my mouth, you want to say, yep, right, I see. And you absolutely have to do it over my words. With someone like that, they're never going to pause. If they go slower and they pause, you can do it in between the words, though we're setting up the more challenging situation here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So within 3 words, I will not have said anything that makes any sense. And, one thing you could say is, I'll start talking. You say, Amy, tell me. I see. Oh, And then maybe you'll do 5 or 6 active listenings, and then you feel like you've got a little bit of information. Then you get ready, take a deep breath, and say, Amy, and see if it interrupts me. And I'll only stop if I'm motivated to.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
And action. Lenka, I have a question for you. I need to know.
I see. I hear. Yeah.
Pause. Okay, now you've gotten caught by my panicked energy. And you're sounding as panicked as I am.
Yes.
And when you say, I see. No, I see. Pause. Got it. Pause. So you need to have really clear pauses. So don't repeat any words. Just say, I see, pause. Got it, pause. Really, pause. I see, pause. You can repeat them, though not consecutively in a row. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay,
from the top. Lenka, I have a question for you. I need to know about a restaurant. I was looking for a so you were about a couple seconds late.
Yeah, can be. Yeah.
So now
because I have, my issue is that I'm concentrating what I should be saying, and I am not properly listening to you.
Yes. And so when you get to the point where you summarize, you're going to be like, I have no idea what you said.
Exactly. That's what is disturbing me. Yeah.
Yes. And everyone has the same challenge. Lenka, you're a brilliant coachee because all of the challenges are coming out. That's very normal. This is why you want to practice this skill in low stress situations. Don't wait till you need it, because you'll never have it available to you, or it will blow up in your face. Great. Okay, we're going to take it from the top. You ready?
Yeah.
Lenka, I have a question. I need to. Do you know a restaurant? I'm looking for a restaurant.
Yeah.
A vegetarian restaurant, and I was wondering because I need something that's close by, because my feet are really tired today, and I can't walk far. Do you have something that you can recommend? And like, is it something that would be nearby, and maybe that you and I could go together? And
yes.
Okay.
Amy. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So here's the tricky thing. It may sound contradictory. When I'm speaking at 140 kilometers an hour. When you say, yes, I see, Amy, you're speaking at 22 kilometers an hour. So you want to speak at a similar speed as me. So not so many words. So it's going to sound like this. If you were listening to me, it would be, yeah. I see. Okay. Right. Got it. Amy. So it's this, it's when I said go slower, what I mean is don't say, I see.
Mm-hmm.
I want one, I see. And then a pause for a second or two. Then the next one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I love that we're getting these micro changes to your style of active listening.
Okay, yeah.
We've from the top, action. Lenka, I have to talk to you. I have an important question, and I need to know immediately because I want to know: is there a restaurant? Is there a vegetarian restaurant that I can eat at?
Yes.
And do you know of one? I mean, can you tell me one? Because I was at the restaurant or the reception.
I got it.
They didn't know anything, and they couldn't help.
Oh yeah.
And I need your help, and I really need to
Amy?
know. So, okay, pause. Very, very good up to that point. So feel free, anyone on the call, as you're listening, if you're having questions or whatever you're noticing, feel free to type it in the chat. What I'm observing is what Lenka did was her active listening was loud. It was, her timing was in tune with the speed and the pace and the energy I was speaking with, without being panicked herself. Now, the only thing here is when you said my name, what I heard was Amy.
Yes.
Good, you heard that too.
Yeah, because that was what I was not trained. This is what I should not be doing in general. I am too much going up in the end of the, not only the name and in the end of the sentences.
Excellent. So thank you for demonstrating how not to do it correctly so that everyone on the call can experience that. So now we're going to do it again. And this time, just before you say my name, I want you to think, I'm going to say her name with a period. I'm going to say it as a statement. Amy. Not aggressively. You don't want to say Amy. You want Amy. And then, like you did, wait to see if it has an impact. And if I stop for a second, that's your cue to summarize. And when you summarize, I want to hear you say, if I heard you correctly, and then you say whatever bits you heard. You ready?
Yeah.
And action. Lenka, I have a question. I need to know something. I'm really, I need to have an answer right away. I'm looking for a restaurant. I'm looking for a vegetarian restaurant.
Yeah, Amy, if I hear you correctly, you are looking for a vegetarian restaurant.
Pause. Okay, pause. Amy still went up. Amy, yeah, nope, not there yet. Let's do it again. So you really, this is the key point right there. Amy, let's hear me, just say that for me.
Amy.
That's good. That's good. Amy.
Amy.
Yep. Good. Okay. So that's how you have to say it in order to interrupt me. You ready?
Yeah.
Action. Lenka, I have a question. Lenka, I really need to know. I'm looking for a restaurant. I'm looking for a vegetarian restaurant, and I want to know, do you know of one that is like nearby that?
Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you correctly that you are looking for the vegetarian restaurant. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I really need to find one, and I'd like us to go together because I have some questions for you.
Let me recommend Amy.
Nope.
Amy.
Pause. You started talking over me.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
I tricked you.
Yeah.
First of all, let's pause for a second. Brilliant. Up to that point, where you did the active listening, it was loud, it was clear, the timing was accurate, and then you said Amy perfectly. And then your summary was great. And then there was a pause. So I jumped back in. And what happened was you started talking in full phrases over me. And then that's where the tug of war back and forth, the resistance starts. So instead, what you need to do is go right back to active listening. It doesn't mean it didn't work. It just means with someone like her and her energy, you might have to do the whole circuit multiple times. Right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to pause that practice there, Lenka, because that was brilliant. I just loved that we were able to tie in the issue that people have. So I want to see if anyone has any questions about what you heard or any, because you might have similar concerns that Lenka has. She raised a lot of concerns that many people bring up in my trainings. So feel free to put any of them in the chat or take yourself off mute. And Lenka, while we're waiting for anyone to type any notes, we've got about a little less than 15 minutes. So I want to see, of the other two points that you raised, what is the burning one that you would like to work on? And I want to just check. Also, Nicola, do we know if Betty was able to join us?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. If you see her name pop up, you can interrupt us so I can give her a little bit of coaching on her issue.
Okay, will do.
So Lenka, what do you think? The first one or the third one?
Probably the third one, because the first one is about when I am hearing someone, usually a woman, that is, I am perceiving her voice to be a screaming one, and I am not able to concentrate properly on the issue she is talking, as it's not overwhelming, but just not pleasant tones to my ears.
Got it.
Yeah.
So if I hear you correctly, the first issue is just that you sometimes speak to someone, sometimes it's a woman, they have a voice that's sharp and it's unappealing, maybe even feels like, got it. Okay, so let me just point out to everyone listening, what I just did there was active listening without the interruption. So let me be really clear to everyone, you don't need to do the interruption all the time, okay? You only want to use that when you absolutely need it. And the examples that Lenka is giving with this woman who's derailing and very intense and emotional, that's a completely legitimate time to use it. If you have to rush off for a meeting, if you have to give somebody important information, those are all legitimate reasons. If you're really tired or hungry and you know that you have no patience to listen to them, that's a legitimate reason to interrupt. So if you don't need to interrupt, then just do the active listening and then summarize after they've paused. Okay, here, Danius, is your question. How often should you say the partner's name? Let's see. Sometimes when someone repeats my name, I feel very strange. Yeah, there's a nice rule. If you're having a long conversation with a person, it's good to use the name at the beginning of the conversation, somewhere in the middle, and then once at the end. And what we're doing here, it's a really powerful tool to, when you want to interrupt someone, most of us respond really well and instantly to our names. So in this case, you're using the person's name specifically to catch their attention. Though I agree with you that sometimes, yes, okay, but not too often. Correct. And I know, I'm sure, Danius, you meant to write and not too often instead of but. And Lenka, I'm already going to give you a little extra bonus coaching on continuing to remove the word but from your vocabulary. Okay, good. Thanks, Danius. All right, so now the third question we're going to spend just a few minutes on, we'll see how far we get. How to teach people who are asking questions very mechanically because they were told to ask in a genuine, natural way. Oh, that's a tough one, Lenka. Say a little bit more about this. And I also want you to, when I say more, I want you to really still use the 4-sentence rule. So keep it very high level and add pauses in case there's to make it really easy for me, the listener, to interrupt you.
I experienced it recently yesterday.
Okay.
I was sitting in a cafe with a lady that was interested to do the workshops with me. And she was asking me what I was doing in the past, what I am planning, but her questions...
And so let's have you get rid of that but, and her question.
...were too really mechanical. It was not natural flow that she was reacting to my sentences. And I perceived her as a machine for questions, I would say.
So I'm curious to know and did it feel like you weren't having a genuine conversation? Is that what bothered you?
Yeah, it was somehow, I should be asking her, this is my question. And it was, we were talking, not a proper dialogue, I would say.
I'm wondering if authenticity and feeling like you're having a real connection with someone is important.
It was not there, the real connection.
And also, I'm guessing it's probably felt a little bit like you were in an interview.
Somehow.
Yes.
Somehow. Yeah.
So is this something that happens often, or is this something you just noticed with this person?
I noticed it with this person and some other people in the past. They know they should be asking, but their question
their question
were artificial to me.
So what is a story that you could make up about why they're sounding artificial or mechanical?
What the story I am making up about it, that they were on a training and they were told, ask people questions.
Right. And it doesn't sound like that's a story, an interpretation that's working for you. So what's a different interpretation? And I like that you caught that is a story you made up, because you don't know for sure.
Yeah, that's my made up story, and they know or they were learned to ask, but the asking is not based on what I told them before.
Well, I have a story that I made up in my mind. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
The story I made up is that these participants want to impress you.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to engage with you.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing it, and it's almost coming across a little bit desperate. So they are kind of forcing themselves to ask something that sounds intelligent or valuable. Does that fit in any way?
To the yesterday's conversation, somehow, yes.
Oh.
It was for me pretended interest.
Pretended interest, yes. So then the other story I'm making up, or connected to that, is that they're feeling self-conscious, or they're feeling nervous or stressed, and so when I imagine that, it gives me a little bit of empathy for them. Does that make sense?
Somehow not, because it's, well, imagine that you are meeting a person and you see her for the third time in your life, and she is asking for the reasons why I am not having children.
Okay, so I'm getting a little bit, that's a question that, is that one of the examples of the questions, or is that clear on how that fits?
It was one example of the questions, but it was not so much artificial what I had yesterday.
Okay, I see. Though it still felt mechanical. I guess for me, when people are being a little bit mechanical, it's like they're not being themselves, they're not being natural. So I would do things, I might ask them questions about themselves. I might change the topic in order to engage with them, to help them relax, if that's part of what's going on, if they're stressed, or simply as a different way to connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I may tell a story about myself, or I may ask them, people generally love to talk about themselves, so I may ask them a question about something about their lives or their experience, or maybe if I know they're an expert in something, I might ask them for advice on something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it would be just simply a matter of you looking at, how can I build rapport with this person in order to make sure, because right now, if they're asking the questions as you're the seminar leader and they're a participant, then there's an unequal balance in the power.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at how can I rebalance the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we're just sort of getting, as they say, the tip of the iceberg on that one. And I might not be fully understanding it, though those are just some of my initial thoughts for you. And because we are running out of time, Lenka, feel free to drop me an email if you ever want to pick up this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, Lenka, for participating and being our guinea pig this evening. That was really very, very useful.
Thank you.
One quote I'd like to leave everyone with before I go through some information is you don't earn courage by doing something and succeeding. You earn courage by doing something and surviving it. And the courage comes as a result. That's the really cool thing. Now, I'd like to let you know that there's more information for you. You can see on the website in front of you, you have, if you want more information, you can learn about some of the content I've talked about through my website, which is carrollcoaching.com. You go to resources for you, newsletters, and you can look up the last, I think there's something like 40 different newsletters on different topics. The next webinar is going to be October 15th, also at 7 p.m. Central European Time. And as usual, there's a limited number of participants. The next Leadership Presence Open program is going to be in London this October, the 8th and 9th. That's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And you can also find out more information about that on my website. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, on Facebook at Amy Carroll Coaching. And you can also take a screenshot of the social media channels. You may need to switch to the full screen on your device in order to see them all at the bottom of the screen. Lastly, if you want to check out my Partner in Action podcast series, they're just like 10, 12-minute snippets of people and their success stories. Go to my website also, or to iTunes and search Carroll Communication Coaching. If this is exciting for me, and this is my invitation to you, if you have a partner success story, kind of like the example that Nicola and I talked about at the beginning of the webinar tonight, and you want to share, what you do is reach out to me. I'll interview you, and we'll set up a time to do that. As a thank you, you're going to receive a complimentary half-hour coaching session from me as a appreciation for your time. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go out there and be the best partners you can be. Take care, everyone.
If you want to participate in one of Amy's superhero trainings, you can find out more on her website, carrollcoaching.com. That's 2 R's and 2 L's.